A massively coordinated attack has yield Russian nukes to Alexander Kessel, where he wants to flatten all of the United States, and Captain J.J. Collins is the last line of defense. She's got a generic backstory, and she wants to tell the world what really happened, but there's a bunch of missiles heading to flatten the American soil, and there's a bunch of missiles heading, and she's the only hope we have, only hope we have, the only hope we have in Interceptor, directed by Matthew Reilly, who's had various novels translated to movies and TV shows. This is his directorial debut. He also wrote the movie, and this is also written by Stuart Beattie. I hope I pronounced that right. I thought it was a weird version of Beetle. He did movies like Collateral, Pirates 1 through 3, and I believe the others as well, at least based on the characters. 30 Days a Night, and I, Frankenstein. So yeah, with a collection of, titles like that, this movie had to be good, right? Right? So basically, I just described the plot right there. There is Luke Bracey, that plays Alexander Kessel, and he is a nut job that basically just wants to flatten the U.S. soil, just, make it scorched earth. He wants to collect a whole bunch of money from the Russian government because he's tired of how America has treated him. And also, he may have dad issues, he may not. I'm just going to be spoiling a lot of this because, I'm going to be honest, missing out on this movie will not haunt you until your dying days, or even haunt you for 5 fucking minutes. It's on Netflix, by the way. It's a Netflix original. And despite being totally unfucking original, the star, Captain J.J. Collins, Elsa Parquet. If you don't recognize that name, she was Elena in some of the later Fast and Furious movies, and while I'm sure that she is a lovely person, you need subtitles for this, because when English is not somebody's first language and they have a thick accent, you really need subtitles on top of subtitles. And you also need a movie that is far less generic than this. This is one of the most generic and aggressively boring action movies I've seen in quite a while. And that doesn't mean necessarily that an action movie is the worst if it's generic, as long as you have good characters and a good story and you keep the pace up and you don't make it totally fucking illogical. And this movie's fucking illogical from the word go. Chris Hemsworth is also in this, an uncredited role as a TV salesman. Chris Hemsworth just is doing whatever the fuck he wants to do, in all honesty. There are a few other characters, too. One character with the codename Beaver. No, really. And he's angry. He's an angry American beaver, which is probably what they should make that cartoon out to be next time. Angry American beavers. American angry beavers. Fuck yeah. So yeah, that's basically the plot. Captain J.J. Collins is on this last line of defense, SBX-1. It's in the ocean. Not even caked by the ocean. It's a missile defense system by the ocean. And basically, if Russians ever launched a nuclear attack, 24 minutes until the missiles reach U.S. soil. And there's 12 minutes for one of 2 defense systems to take it down. SBX-1 or Fort Greeley. Almost said Fort Feely, not Mr. McFeely. Busy day, busy day. Yeah. This basically just ends up being painfully generic and boring, and after Fort Greeley is taken down in a very, very silly opening credit sequence, and since it's in Alaska, apparently there's nothing but snow in that part of Alaska. I don't know too much about Alaska, but I'm surprised they didn't have polar bears out there. So when you have your directorial debut, even if you have the chops of being a writer, maybe you should consult other people and not just look at action movie cliches and say, yeah, let's put that, let's do this. Unauthorized missile removal, I hate when that happens. Man, that's a very unique method to go about removing your missile. So, there's these Russian nukes are ready to launch. Also, there's a Madam President. And there's just... and then there's generic footage of these people, of this video chat going on after this rig basically gets taken over by Alexander Kessel and his people. And it turns out, oh no, shock of shocks. Sorry, spoiler here, shock of shocks. The guy with the codename Beaver ended up actually being the angry American beaver that was the person that made this whole thing possible. How did they get here? How did they kill all these people with these nerve agents and the sulfuric acid that doesn't melt the goddamn metal floor that it lands on? Somehow. Maybe it was ecto-cooler sulfuric acid. I don't fucking know. I will say this much. There were a couple unique kills in this movie because J.J. Collins is disgraced after a commanding officer basically made advances on her, and then she wiretapped herself to get him discharged. And then people wrote a whole bunch of mean stuff in her room and found lewd pictures she had taken before she'd gotten in the military or something, and tried to have her discredited and all that and everything, despite the fact, oh yeah, it was a creepy officer that was preying on women, so maybe you shouldn't fucking do that regardless of what gender you are. At one point, she ran out of bullets and stabbed a guy with the barrel of her gun. That was unique, I will say that much right there. But this guy Alexander is one of them. By the way, they just keep chucking characters at us, and then they tell their story a little bit later. Like, who are these guys? Oh no, these guys that we don't know are killing these other people that we barely know. Whatever are we gonna fucking do? And he's got a few people that are still alive in his crew, and they're trying to cut down this door because they don't have the security guard because, oh yeah, the guy that got stabbed in the face with the gun had the sulfuric acid on him. Again, that did not melt the fucking floor. And I know that the metal was probably reinforced and whatever. And they had spectacular, satellite white boobs up there. Actually, it was just one individual boob. Individual boob right there. Huge boob. Just going to keep saying boob until it loses all meaning. Speaking of losing all meaning, there was a general named General Dyson. Boy, does he suck at his job. You got to hold out for 90 minutes, even though it's just you and one other guy there. A guy that eventually ends up getting killed. Then Alexander Kessel Mr. Kessel keeps mentioning a whole bunch of cliches and other phrases in military jargon. The fall of Rome, exitus, actus, probat. Whatever. I mean, I don't care if I got that right. I don't really give a shit. The result justifies the deed. He might as well just had a mustache. He was just twirling at this point. And somehow put a lady on frickin' railroad tracks. More guys get shot. And various other things happen. We then see the flashback of her getting death threats and all this stuff and trying to end her life after she got rid of that discredited general. But then her dad saved her. And her dad, through various flashbacks, who kind of looks like a very, very old Gibbs in all honesty, says, hey, never stop fighting. And then more cliches and other things happening. It turns out Beaver is the betrayer. Oh no, Beaver the betrayal. Curse you, Beaver, and your inevitable betrayal. And then eventually they hack the emergency broadcast system and send out their message to everybody. Chris Hemsworth, by the way, is here as a TV salesman. In case I didn't make that clear enough. He was having fun. I imagine he probably got paid pretty handsomely for this. Or decided to walk on the set and say, I want to do this. What? Okay, sure. Just sit down. I don't want you to be in pain. I don't want you to be Thor, and it hurts. If everybody hadn't shut off the review by now, that pun should do it. Those who are sticking around. It turns out that among these lewd pictures, she actually was a soccer player, but she posed as sexy soccer player general woman. And she's talking to Kessel and says, oh, you know what the one thing is about being a goalkeeper? A lot of injuries, including, dislocated thumbs. She dislocates from being untied and beats them up. And then fights a blonde for seemingly forever. A blonde that was in the group. And sprays some foam in her mouth that's used to seal some stuff closed. And then intercepts one missile with this giant red button that she hits. And yay, no whammy, stop. And the missile gets exploded. There's 15 left. There's an American angry beaver, as I've mentioned. We get more cliches and other phrases. Kessel then talks about, hey, your dad's over here in Scottsdale. We have your dad in a retirement home. And then they cut off his finger. And then it goes to black because they seemingly shoot him or something. And then one guy that got shot earlier was one of the generals on there. And Kessel uses his thumbprint. Apparently you can use that thumbprint to access the computer and start to sink the compound. Because that way, we can't get in there, fine. We will sink you to the ground. But wait, how's Kessel going to escape? Oh, there's a submarine. Of course there's a submarine that's going to come along. Once he does this, the Russians can just flatten everything. Keep that in mind for a little bit later. So, Captain J.J. Collins gets shot in the arm. A bullet went all the way through somehow, yet she is able to move her arm okay. Can't grab anything, but can use it just fine. And then, of course, Beaver at one point attacks the one guy that was going to fix all the leaking valves. And the guy says, "You're not a murderer." "No, I'm not a murderer. I'm a fucking patriot." You know that Beaver tried to storm the Capitol. So now they're going to sink this whole thing. But closing off some of the valves saved them a few fucking minutes. Not enough minutes to where it would actually coincide with the helicopters being sent there by the Madam President and such. And then she has this idea. I'm going to let them retake the command center. I'm going to make them fire the missiles, and then I'm going to find a way to hack it and send our missiles to intercept that. Oh my God, you think that's going to work? One guy says you only have a 14% chance of making that. But if you take that and you mix it with that 66 and 2/3% chance, it has a 141 2/3% chance of winning that sacrifice. Probably butchered that Scott Steiner promo horribly, and if you're not a wrestling fan, you have no fucking idea who Scott Steiner is. Missiles fire. 12 minutes, by the way. 12 minutes. 12 minutes of the 24 you have to intercept those. So, they're basically she ends up killing like one other person. Beaver gets whipped at one point in a fight where this laptop is being used with the button compound thingy, Intel inside. Dun, 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 dun. And she takes some razor wire that's off a fence that just happens to be there and puts a pipe around his neck, or puts a razor wire around there and uses the pipe and cuts his head off. And she falls into the water. 5 minutes, by the way, at this point, before they fell in the water, before she can before the missiles are impossible to intercept. She manages to launch them with 0.33 seconds left. Half a second left. And destroy. Ooh, all firefighty and pretty and everything. The bombs bursting in air. Oh no, one's getting through. And then this other missile says, "Oh, sorry, I got late. I had to take the kids to school." And then she fights Kessel. And then oh, Jesus. And then the Russian sub shows up. The Russian sub, by the way, that was supposed to take Kessel. And the commander says, "Well, what should I do? Kill him, and whatever you do to her is your choice." So they shoot him and leave. Dips the cap at least. "Okay, my work is done." "What do you mean your work? You didn't do anything." "Didn't I?" And she's a hero. And everybody was holding out for a hero. They were holding out for a hero in the end of the night. They got to be strong. I don't fucking care anymore. Curse you, Bonnie Tyler. No, I kid. Bonnie Tyler was cool. I think. Maybe. Moving on from 80s obscure references. The dad's fine. Somehow. It turns out he had a bunch of former military friends in the retirement home, and a bunch of old guys attacked the people. I would have rather seen that. That would have been fun. That could have been the whole goddamn movie. Old people just taking down terrorists. In fact, now I demand to see that movie. And Madam President shows up because she has nothing else to do and says, "You won't be going out to rigs like that. We will restore that rig with blackjack and hookers, and you will be part of my staff." And there you go. Fucking it. That's fucking it. That was 80. I didn't expect much from it, and I got less. It was kind of entertaining to talk about it, though. Anyway, F. Clearly gets an F. It's terrible. It's fucking terrible. Agree, disagree what I said? Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Retlin. I'll see you soon.